Hey everyone, thanks a lot for joining in. So we'll just wait for a minute or two by the time we have all the people who join us, right? So got a couple of them who are joining in. So before we get started, let me just quickly give you all a quick brief about the HeadSpin Automation Hackathon, right? So this was a 36-hour hackathon, which was live from 30th of May to 31st June, and it was completely online hackathon, right? And it was a great experience. So to give a quick, brief about the entire hackathon, let me just let you know that we had around 135 participants or registrants, basically. I mean, yeah, registrants were 135, joining us from 10 different countries across the globe. And finally, we had 115 participants who took part in the 36-hour online hackathon, right? And here we are today for the final award ceremony. And I know all of you have been eagerly waiting to hear who's got the award. I mean, whose solution was the best, right? But before that, let me just give you a brief about today's agenda. So just to make sure that we add a little more spice to this online award ceremony, and to double up the learning and value from today's session, we are privileged to announce or let you know that we are having Deep Kalra, who's the CEO of MakeMyTrip. And along with him, we will be having Manish Subramaniam in a fireside chat. And Manish is the Senior Vice President, Channel Partnerships and Client Services at HeadSpin. It's really an honor to have such great personalities from the industry join us, especially during such crisis situation where we are going completely. So before we, quickly get into the fireside chat along with our panelists, also I'd like to let you know that the evaluation parameters which were considered while our judges were evaluating all the teams. So some of the great solutions were presented. I mean, great level of enthusiasm was also shown during the hackathon, and also the projects which were built or the solutions which were submitted were amazing. So our judges evaluated the teams, and based on this specific criteria, that is the framework design of the project which was submitted, along with the scalability and maintenance, that is how scalable is your solution, right? And apart from that, the reusability and locator strategy used that you any of the teams have used while they were working on the solution, and clean code, the quality of your code. And apart from that, also the business scenario implementation was taken into consideration. And finally, the logging and reporting. So these are some of the parameters which were considered while our judges were evaluating all the projects, and I'm pretty sure they must have had a really tough time. Now, without further ado and without taking much of your time, I'd quickly like to welcome Manish Subramaniam, who is the Senior Vice President, Channel Partnerships and Client Services from HeadSpin. And over to you, Manish, with that. Thanks a lot for joining.
Thanks very much, Azhar, for that. And welcome, everyone. I see we've got about 40 attendees so far, and hopefully a few more will join. But more importantly, I want to welcome a close friend, Deep Kalra. Deep is someone I've known for 25, perhaps 30 years now. I still remember the day in sometime July 1991, which is when I first met Deep. I had just joined business school. Deep was a year senior to me. And it was very, very evident from that day itself that Deep was a leader of leaders. He was clearly the leader of not just the group of people in our dorm, but he was loved and liked and respected by everyone in our business school. Since then, Deep has gone on to achieve great heights. And Deep, we're really honored and privileged to have you with us in this session today. If you can just enable your webcam, or Sharon, if you can just promote Deep to come up here. Excellent. Can you hear us, Deep? I think, Deep, we can't hear you. I think your audio is muted.
Okay, Great. Can you guys hear me?
Excellent. Yes, perfect.
Okay.
Thank you so much, Deep, for making it. I know you're a busy man,
Yeah.
and I was just Googling you and found that you've been doing video after video for the press. You clearly are one of India's biggest digital influencers. So really, really happy and privileged to have you with us.
No, it's my pleasure, Manish, and it makes it special because it's you. Like I told you, I can't say no to you. You've been not only my junior, my dorm junior. If anyone is, I'm sure many people here are from engineering colleges, MBA school, where they've had hostels in India, and dorm junior means a lot. And we had just 20 people in our dorm. So if I've ragged Manish, then I have to, for the rest of my life, I have to agree to anything that he says. So now we've, ended up being really good friends. We've stayed in touch, but it's a real privilege to be here. It's very exciting what you guys are doing at HeadSpin. I'm excited about the hackathon. I read up what you shared, and privilege that you guys chose the MakeMyTrip app to get into, to dive into. So I'm really excited to hear about what you guys found and your learnings from this.
Sure. I'll also bring on Shuchi Rana, my co-host for the day. Shuchi is a colleague at HeadSpin. So Shuchi, excellent. Nice to have you on board as well.
Hi, Deep. Nice to meet you.
Hi, Shuchi. Good to see you too.
Go ahead.
Excellent. Deep, so let's start off. Clearly you were a leader of leaders when we started off in IIM. I've always been very keen and curious to know from you, when did you see yourself as a leader? When did you realize you were a leader?
I think I've been asked that question many times with the word entrepreneur. So let me answer it for both entrepreneur. Never been asked that actually as a leader. So it's pretty interesting. After the 2 years at IIM Ahmedabad, I joined a job, a banking job with ABN AMRO, a Dutch bank in India, and I had no aspirations to be an entrepreneur. I did not enjoy banking, though I learned a lot there. First jobs are special, made a lot of friends. It was too dry and boring for me, perhaps. But then I took on a very entrepreneurial role. So I worked for an American company which was setting up operations in India, actually a company headquartered in Richmond, Virginia, company called AMF Bowling, tried to bring something very new to the country, clearly before its time. So there was clearly an entrepreneurial bug, but I have to be honest, I don't think I connected the dots at that point of time. And after 4 years of trying to make that work, which I think it's fair to say was financially quite a disaster, but I learned a lot. I learned my street smarts in those 4 years. I tried to sell, a project which cost a few crores at that point of time to someone who had real estate in India, which pretty much meant, all kinds of people. So I learned a lot of street smarts. And then I joined G Capital because my panic was really that I had stopped learning, and my peer group, folks like yourself, people in my batch, etc., were in jobs where they were still learning a lot. We were still in our late 20s, and there was no stage to really stop the learning curve. And G Capital was an interesting ride, but I got exposed to the internet both personally and officially through G Capital. It was 99, getting on 2000. So clearly the internet in India was hot and happening, very new, still dial-up modems for those of you who knew India then. I don't know what the average age is besides Manish, who's definitely closer to my age, but the rest are probably much younger people. And I'm used to that in my company. The average age of MakeMyTrip is 27. So I can relate to these folks. But I think it's about then when I got my calling that I want to turn entrepreneur. And it's in April 2000 when I started MakeMyTrip. I think the word leader, you don't really see yourself till you really get thrust into that space, but you perhaps need to have, I think, a lot of self-belief that you can take on an uncharted path. You can do something which probably people haven't done, and you'll be able to figure out a way. So if that is, a proxy for, I don't know if you want to call it leadership or whatever, it's an embarrassing word, but yeah, I guess that helped to have that, self-confidence that one can take on something which is very unstructured, very new. No rules had been written for the internet in India. But I wasn't afraid, and I think I wasn't afraid largely because of the training of the last 8 years of work experience. Also because of what one had learned back in school, which is break down any complex problem into a number of smaller problems, and you'll figure out a way to solve them. And that's pretty much how I even today address anything which is a difficult situation, try to break it up into smaller pieces, and that helps a lot, and then build a good team around it. So I think that's been the simple journey.
Excellent, thank you. Yeah, and we're all very curious to validate your MakeMyTrip journey itself, right? Legend has it that you tried selling a car for your wife, and then you made a trip to Thailand, and somewhere along the way, you found that middlemen can be eliminated, and the experience and the cost can be so much better if people booked directly via the internet. Is there any element of truth in this on how you started MakeMyTrip and validated the potential?
Yeah, both stories, Manish, are quite true. I think there's, these were both turning points. So these were both convincing points for me. Both, the experience of trying to sell a car online and getting a better deal than what you got through the offline market, despite having friends in that trade. And then also finding, hotel room, which was cheaper by $10 a day. So for a week, it was actually $60-70 cheaper, or $15 a day even. And it was a modest hotel, and I still know the hotel. So, it kind of rang a bell that, listen, there's something out here which can probably be done much better online, leveraging the internet, than is being done in the offline world, either physically or through the phone. So they were convincing kind of validation points, and I think convinced me, I wanted to build a consumer business on the internet. I think that I was very clear. It was going to be the internet. This presented something where I think one could attack and address with not too much of capital, or so I believed way back then. Things change a lot. And then also build a consumer business. For me, it was always B2C was exciting. I think I understood people, or at least was excited about understanding people's aspirations, perceptions, how they kind of wanted to interact with your, your kind of platform that you put out there. At that time, it was the web, and then it moved over time to the phone, and then finally the app, what we'll talk about. So that was exciting. And then I did have two choices. I did look at online stockbroking very carefully. Actually, had a business plan for that, and online travel. And I think there the heart definitely won over the mind. Online travel seemed like being something far more exciting. It also seemed like being the kind of business where an individual or a group of individuals, I was starting out alone, which was also a mistake, but luckily met some great guys along the way. But it seemed like the kind of business where, you can be the decision maker, you can run this business. It's not necessarily going to belong to a large financial house, unlike, stockbroking, which I looked at the E-Trade model, the Charles Schwab model, and then in India, of course, over time, we got stuff like ICICI Direct or India Bulls. So yeah, I think it was travel, and I'm so glad it was, because it's just the most exciting thing. Despite being in COVID times, I can tell you, travel is still by far the most interesting thing.
Yeah, no, I still remember meeting up with you in the early 2000s when you'd come to the Silicon Valley to raise some money.
Yeah.
And that point in time, validating the potential, for someone like you who was a first-time entrepreneur, trying to make it really, really big, right? You aimed really high, and you were able to get there. But if you can tell us some of the earliest memories you have, or good or bad favorite memories from those times when you were looking to raise capital and start the journey. What are some of your favorite memories?
Yeah, I remember that meeting. I remember coming to your home. You probably changed that home, but I remember coming there. I actually gone to Infosys to pitch for business, and I think Basar Pradhan used to run Infosys at that point of time for the US. And so yeah, those were tough times, because we were trying to raise money in a really tough post 9/11, post .com bust era. So we had, I think, 4 really tough years, out of which 2.5 were just terrible. Like I think the only thing which pushed us through at that time was sheer, I think stubbornness more than anything else, which is just like, listen, it's too early to pack up, and you've got something out here. The metrics were moving in the right direction, but I think Sage Counsel was always saying, this is silly, go back to your corporate jobs kind of thing. But it was just too early to give up. And while our VC had pulled out money, got a bunch of angels, we literally got all the money we could collect with from family, friends, whatever little one had to put into the business and buy it back. It was a management-owned company from 2001 to 2005, and a few angels, 100%. And it was just crazy days, but I can tell you the best of times. So when you're bootstrapped, the one thing that you come up with is the smartest solution, because your back is towards the wall, resources are few. And in some sort of way, we do a lot of hackathons at work too. In some sort of way, a hackathon is the same thing in a very microcosm kind of compressed manner. A hackathon is something you say, okay, listen, everyone's got 36 hours or 48 hours or 24 hours, whatever it is. Everyone has the same number of resources pretty much. It's not about throwing money. What can you build with this team which is of value to the company, or can be a new business idea, etc. And that's, you set out a goal. So it's the same kind of frenzy, is just done over multiple months and multiple quarters. And the one resource you typically don't have when you're bootstrapped is money, but you got everything else. So then you come up with the best solution, because money can become a substitute. Very often you can throw dollars, and you can throw dollars at solutions, and you can acquire customers, but that's not the right way to acquire them, because you've acquired them with a discount, or you've acquired them with a coupon. They've come in for that, but which is okay. You can get a trial, you can induce trial, but if people don't come back for the right reason, I always say, and the right reason in this case has to be because they had a good experience. They had a good experience. They had a better experience than they could have had otherwise. If people are not coming back for that reason, then you're probably not doing something right. And that is, I think, what we all have to keep in mind, which is, you can buy trial once, but if you're going to buy repeat, then you're fundamentally going down a wrong path. And that's been a massive learning for me, because every time we've done that, it's not like we haven't made mistakes. We've made mistakes. And every time we've done that, we've built a business which is shaky. And the moment you remove, you start taking away those inducements, as you should, you realize that your retention and loyalty, if you can say so, just falls flat. And for me, customer retention is probably the most important metric, which is how many, what percentage of people actually stay back and come back to you. Unaided customer retention, if you call it that, that's the holy grail in our business, conversion and that. So I think you have those two things, you got a great business in the making. Then it's worth slogging it out, it's worth riding the storm. But if you don't have that fundamental and you're not improving week on week, then you're not based on solid fundamentals.
Sure thing. Sushi?
Yeah. Well, you've been in the startup tech investment space for quite a few years now. As an entrepreneur and as both an investor, how do you think that landscape has changed from when you started, both yourself, when you were raising money for yourself, and now that entrepreneurs are raising money? Like, has it become easier, or has it, how has the entire landscape changed?
Sure. So I think in India, and I can only speak about the Indian context, even though we did try to raise money in the US, and a lot of our investors actually were originally US-based investors. In India, it's definitely become much easier to raise money as a startup. If you've got a good idea, you have a good team, you have some kind of track record, or actually that's even secondary, but you've got a good team together and you have fundamentally a good idea, and you have, I think, a prototype working really helps. It also dramatically changes your chances of success, and B, the kind of terms you'll raise on. There's a lot of money chasing. I think not so many great ideas out there. So you'll get your first, you'll get your angel/seed round pretty easily. You might even get Series A on the back of, again, maybe not much revenue, but you have something, you have traction. I think the challenge is after that, and I actually think it's a disservice for entrepreneurs, because you get a lot of money very easily upfront. You're typically being chased. So a couple of smart folks together, if you put together something and you have it out there, you'll be chased, and it spoils you. And if you don't very quickly change your headset towards delivering actual traction, revenues, retention, the right ratios, the right metrics for customers coming back, then you realize, very quickly you're in that Series B stage where you need much more capital, but you're suddenly not getting it because people have become far more picky and choosy at this stage. So it's tricky. You'll get your first flight, you'll get the tailwinds, you'll get enough fuel to get going, but then you better keep that momentum. And for that, you've actually got to change your headset, and you've got to change the areas you're focusing on pretty dramatically. And I think not everyone does that, and that's why that's pretty much called like the chasm of death, because the mortality there is just so high. A lot of good businesses, they get afloat, they get till there, and then they just expect they'll get a lot more capital there. But people who are looking at Series B, Series C, I think are far more mindful about the core metrics there, the revenue metrics there, and that's what you have to be mindful about. So it moves very quickly. You'll get the capital, but within 18 to 24 months, you'll be suddenly saying, hey, that was really easy. I got a whole bunch of capital. We've got these people, but we have high fixed costs. But for some reason, things have changed. And I'm not even talking about COVID times or Corona times. This is, this apart. Just otherwise, I think we have to be mindful of that.
Cool.
Yeah.
And are there any areas that are close to your heart from an investment standpoint that you look at, or any stages? Like, what are you looking for in entrepreneurs that you invest in?
Yeah, I love early stage still. So I love early stage and I love Series A. I love the consumer space on the internet. It's something I can relate to. I love when we find teams who are trying to solve real problems. So I get naturally attracted to those. These are like real problems, like it's being done in a suboptimal way. How can I do it better? Rather than really corner niche cases. Yeah, that's attractive. I definitely like when people put out really stellar first cut product. I think that grabs my attention. It just shows, I think, the ability to have attention to detail. So if you put out a sloppy thing up front, I think it's very reflective on the way you're looking at your business, because I think the customers become very discerning very fast, even in India. And if people are not able to put out things which they will be naturally attracted to and they'd like to try it out, because today you have to vie for attention, for the customer's attention. You have just too many things going on. We're all, we're on our phone and we're constantly getting notifications from here, there. So many people have said, check out this new app, this does this. And, you have a finite number of hours in the day. So what are you going to do? And you're definitely going to go towards something which you find inherently attractive up front. And you're saying, hey, I'm willing to give this 5 minutes of my time, but in 5 minutes, 10 minutes, it's got to grab me. It's got to attract me. It's got to keep my attention. And if that doesn't get done, you're not going to come back again. So it's tough. And therefore, what can you do? You can spell out very, very clearly what does your app do, and that's why it's got the buzzword. But secondly, the UI has just got to be wow. It's got to be world class, where people are just saying, wow, this is nice, this is interesting, this is different. And I think you've got to do all of that stuff in the B2C stage. In B2B, it's an entirely different ballgame. I think you're reaching out to very different, you're solving problems. You'll get more time. It's harder to get that, but you need very few customers up front. So, even if you get a handful of customers and they like what they see, and then they are willing to renew with you and spread that word and become your key customers and give you testimonials, that's what you need. So I think for B2B, it's different strokes. You need to be far more, I think the solution that you're providing, it's got to very quickly get across to your customer and say, so how are you adding value to my company? And what are you going to do to either take away pain or help me earn more revenue dollars, or make me more efficient, make my team more efficient, or whatever it is. So it's different, but in both cases, I think the common thing is the attention to detail. For me, that's just key. And if people don't have that, I think somewhere along the way, that will come in your way.
Absolutely, absolutely. And Manish, one last question, I'll hand it over back to you. But back to the leadership question. We're living through unprecedented times. Like, what would be your advice of having gone through it yourself as a leader to like startup founders, to leaders out there? Like, what are the few key things that you'd like to share as to how to navigate these times?
Yeah, well, being very honest, I've never seen something as crazy as this one. So you need to harness all your energies, all your stamina to go through this one. It's bigger than the 9/11 crash we saw, the SARS epidemic, the dot-com bust, all of it rolled in one, and the financial crisis of '08. So it's probably bigger than all of them put together because no one knows when it'll end, right? That's the crazy part. And for our business, it's really impacting our business in a hard way. So what are we telling ourselves right now, or what have we told ourselves through all of these different crises? And very often we get the tag of being a resilient company. And I think that's what you really need to be, because there will be tough times. Cycles are becoming shorter but sharper. Even if this didn't happen, which was, I think people, I know people call it a gray swan event, but whether it's gray or black, it is definitely something which most people didn't see coming. But if something else will go wrong, because the markets get ahead of themselves, they get heated, and you'll have a crash. You'll have a financial crash. Maybe the financial crash was anyway coming. Maybe the markets were overheated anyway, and this is only kind of further catalyzed that. So I think I would tell all wannabe entrepreneurs out there that if you believe enough in your idea, first give it enough time. Just whenever. So I have young folks who every now and then are quitting to start their own thing. And even senior guys, and the only advice I give them is, I ask them, how long are you willing to give this before calling it a day? Let's assume it doesn't work out. And if people are saying 2 to 3 years, I don't think that's enough. Maybe in the US, I would like to hear 4 to 5 years, because I think it takes that kind of time. And if you give up too early, you'll never know. So I do advise people, don't look in that rearview mirror till good 4 or 5 years are gone. You won't do this again. It takes far too much energy, and it takes far too much out of you. The burnout is crazy. There is no work-life balance in the first 4 or 5 years. But give it enough time. If you're on to, be open to pivot. Maybe that initial idea needs to be tweaked. Hear people's ideas, do feedback, take it all the time. Listen to your customers more than anyone else. Be okay about pivoting, but definitely check in for thinking 4 to 5 years. So that's what my biggest advice would be. If you're not ready for that kind of haul, for various reasons, could be personal reasons, then you might have a false start, because there's a good chance you won't see anything. I mean, we didn't see anything in our business which was worth reporting out till 5 years. That's the reality. That's when it really started taking off. The first 5 years was literally bootstrapped, just trying to figure out, do you have something which is a product market fit, which people are willing to pay for, and then can you scale it up? And that was the US-India time. But our business really took off when we launched in India, and that didn't happen until 2005. So it doesn't mean every business will take 5 years. Hopefully it'll happen for you in 2 to 3 years, but at least come in with that mentality. So I think you've got to have the mentality of a long distance runner. Not that I'm one. I can swim long distances, I can't run, but I think you've got to have that kind of stamina where you can just keep going and say, I'm ready for that, because that really helps. And then if you have someone with you, which is great. If I had to do it all over again, I would start with one co-founder. Here, like I said, I got lucky to come across not one, but 3 different guys along the way who were just incredible. And one of them runs the company now as group CEO. That's Rajesh. And in the past, I've had 2 other incredible guys, and they should be on the same wavelength. So it's very important that you and your co-founder or co-founders have the same wavelength, pretty much the same. I think it really helps to have similar values, because when it comes down to hard decisions, core decisions, it comes down to values. But definitely both of you should be, or all 3 of you should be in and signing in or checking in, saying, okay, 4 years, we're not going to look back. That almost, to my mind, if you're smart people, it almost guarantees success of some kind, because most people don't last that long. That's the reality.
Mm-hmm. Makes sense.
Nothing.
Right.
Yeah, and before we ask the next question, just want to let audience members know that if you have any questions, please jot them down in the questions section. Shuchi and I are going to be looking at them, and then we can pick some of those questions back for Deep as well. So yeah, please feel free to ask questions in that chat window. Deep, a question that I've always wanted to ask you. You clearly have had phenomenal success so far. You're still associated though with the MakeMyTrip brand. I know you are, on the you're the founder of Ashoka University. You're working with IIM Gurgaon. You're doing a bunch of other things. Are you at any point in time in the near future going to, think of starting something else that also gets you sort of associated with something else? I mean, are you going to be the Elon Musk of India that 3 years from now, 5 years from now, moves from doing something that he's done to something completely different that is truly pioneering? Does your heart want to take you in a completely different direction that consumes all your energies? Not now, 2, 3 years, 5 years from now.
No, it's a fair question. The fact is that MakeMyTrip has been all-consuming on the work front. It's given a lot, it's taken a lot, and I still think the best is yet to come. So, and I was attending the Nomura investment conference today, and literally we had from 9 a.m. till 15 minutes before this session, and that's why I couldn't log in 15 minutes before. I was actually speaking to investors pretty much through the day, so it was quite a crazy day. And I was telling the guys, like, this is a hiccup. And one of them actually said, that's amazing where you think the best. I said, yeah, the best is yet to come for the company because of various reasons. And that's a great feeling, because I think what could come true, what you're saying, is if I believe that the best is behind us, but the best is yet to come. So I definitely want to be there to involved. But like I said, Rajesh is now group CEO. I'm full-time executive chairman, but I get to pick and choose and do the interesting stuff, like attend this nice session on HeadSpin. And so I think I get a lot more time off. Like you said, doing a lot of stuff on TV is only because the industry is going through this crap and someone's got to talk about it. Something I want to talk about actually is, so Ashoka, by the way, I'm just one of the founders. There are many founders, but I did get on early and I'm privileged to be there. It's an amazing thing. So I get time now to give to whether it's Ashoka or TIE or other industry fora. They take up time and I'm excited to be part of them. The most exciting thing which happened to us during Corona time is actually, we got the opportunity, and thanks to one of my senior tech colleagues, he had an idea to build a contact tracing app. Way back, actually, this was around Holi in India. So I remember March 10th was Holi, and on Holi, he sent me this idea and we spoke about it. And I was, wow, this is really interesting. Why don't we flesh it out? And then I said, let's take it to the government. It was early days. The lockdown hadn't even happened in India. And we pushed it hard through Amitabh Kant at Niti Aayog and kept pushing it. And after a week, we got our breakthrough. And then we got into this unintended contest which is the contact tracing app, which is going to win. And this was a pro bono effort for us. And these guys worked overnight. This was a team of 20 going crazy. And finally we were the app that was chosen. We have today 127 million downloads. We were the fastest app to 50 million downloads in the world. And we were doing it, of course, it was pro bono and for a good cause. And we still run it. Our team pretty much is the team which has built it entirely, and I've been very closely associated, and it's been just the most exhilarating ride I've had in a long time, because it was from scratch. So it was entrepreneurial all over again, and the stakes were so high, we couldn't afford to fail. So this is what the government's using today for everything that they're doing on tracing. I wish they were, they could do even more with it. But when I see the data, I mean, it's scary, but it's exhilarating, because exactly how many infected people are floating around and how they're meeting people and how they're even getting into airports and airplanes. And that really scares me at times, but it's all there. And it just shows you that technology could help you actually check this crisis if you're ready to act on it. And, we were thrilled when we got a call about a month ago. I got a call from, well, I won't take the name of the company, but one of India's largest IT companies saying that, listen, we are building a contact tracing app for one of the states in the US, and we're doing it pro bono to the government, but can you help us? And because we've looked at all the apps around there, including what Apple and Google launched, and we agree that we don't have to think too much about privacy right now. We need to save lives. And, so we consulted them, and, that app has gone live now. So it's really exciting, I think, and it gives, a lot of thrill. So I think that all of this keeps me very busy, Manish. So I'm quite happy and contented and to focus here, but who knows what the future will bring. So you really never know. It's about, you enter into different headspace also.
Sure.
Once we're through with this crisis, it might have proven to us that we can, do different things too. So we're actively thinking around that. Arogya Setu is the name of the app. It gave us the ability to say we can build anything, literally. It had nothing to do with travel. Yes, there was mobile tech app, but so I think that's definitely at the back of our mind.
Manish,
Yeah, and kudos to you for that.
Sorry, go ahead, finish what you're saying. Do have a few questions, but that have come in. So.
Oh, there are. I don't see any questions on my sheet, so on my list. So
I saw something pop up, but I couldn't read it.
Yeah, I'll read them to you. So,
Okay.
is this a good time? Yeah.
go ahead, Fuji, yes.
What would you change if you started the journey today? Your entrepreneurial journey, I guess, is the question.
Yeah, I guess I kind of pre-answered that in a sense. If I had to start all over again, I would probably just change one thing. I'd start with a co-founder with complementary skills. So if I brought the same skill sets as I have or I had in 2000, I would definitely take a tech co-founder. So all things tech would sit with her or him, and all things probably business, marketing, etc. would sit with me, and I think that would be the right way to start. Yeah. Right.
Cool. What are some of the good startups of India and current space which have shown right intent and business model, in your opinion?
Yeah, I think the ones which have really impressed me of late, while I'm a big fan of design, like I said earlier, and I've been really impressed with what Zomato did on the design side. The business economics there need to improve. I also think that Ola is doing a phenomenal job giving Uber a run for their money. But if I look at original ideas, I think that for me sometimes are even more exciting, which is not a Me Too just because it happened in the US and therefore it should happen out here. So I think Paytm was pretty clever. Even though we might compete on the travel space, I think they're pretty clever how they went about some of their stuff. I think today, if you look at some of the vernacular apps, they're doing a pretty good job. So you look at someone like Daily Hunt, they're doing a really good job. So I think there's some pretty interesting things. Misho, social commerce out there, pretty unique and very nicely done. So I think there's some pretty cool stuff out there. Policy Bazaar, underrated, great company, solid entrepreneur, done a great job, Yashish. And again, I think he did something, again, you can make a comparable with Lending Tree, but it's fundamentally different and more challenges out here. So I think some unique problems being solved and being solved pretty well by people out here. So yeah, great to see these coming. And every now and then, like Grey Orange sometime back, a robotics company out of India, phenomenal, by a very young guy from BITS Pilani. Prior to that, actually same school as me, but like many years younger. And so I think it's just so awesome to see these companies coming out here, and there are many of them who then find their market maybe somewhere else, but they came out of India fundamentally. Freshdesk, the exciting company is Zoho, Freshdesk. So no dearth of great companies. Off late, I guess, EdTech doing really well. Byju's, very impressive growth numbers for sure. So yeah, no dearth of great companies out there.
Are there, do you admire any entrepreneurs? I'm sure there are a few favorites. Not
Absolutely.
That you can name them, but people would love to know.
No, absolutely. I think there's just a whole bunch of them. For me, Sanjeev Bikhchandani in India has always been like friend, philosopher, guide, and just an incredible guy. That's the founder of Naukri, people would know, and how he reinvents himself. They're now investing in startups. They found Zomato early and took a big stake there. They found Policy Bazaar early and took a big stake there. So I think they're really smart guys. And he's just a super guy with the highest standards of, just corporate ethics, corporate governance, just phenomenal, and so much to learn from. Out in the West, you can't help but not admire. I mean, I met Jeff Bezos recently, and on one of his India trips, we had a group breakfast meeting, and you can't not admire just what he's built. For me, he's always been like pretty amazing. Regret is never got to meet Steve Jobs. I wish I had. But you can't not admire these guys. They've just done a great job. Or Jean Combe, the guy who actually built, I think one of the coolest products ever, which is with just 42 people at peak, which is WhatsApp. And I wish I could get to meet him at some point of time. Puritan design, Puritan product. So yeah, I think that's super admirable.
How do you from an innovation standpoint, make the most of this time? Like, what do you think? And especially specific to travel, what does the future of travel look like? Have you
You
given that?
know, yeah, I got that. You know, Shuchi, it's such a difficult time for everything, and particularly for travel. But you've got to look at every obstacle as being an opportunity. And the opportunity for us is we had 2 months of no business, and business is slowly just inching back, limping back, whatever. We just opened flights 2 weeks ago in India. Hotels just got opened, and it'll take a long time because cases are still growing in India. So, but you know, it means that you could actually do lights off work, which we always strive to do when we're in companies. We try to make lights on, lights off projects, right, which are long term and you won't be disturbed with day-to-day stuff, but you always get disturbed because there are fires all the time. That's the reality. Now you could actually do that. So we got our folks to just focus like lasers on all the projects that we were putting away and saying, we'll do this later. We took the hardest projects that no later, we'll do it now. You're sitting at home, you have more time, don't bother about coming into work. But you know, I think that was the opportunity, and we built some really interesting stuff, and those features are now out there. All those big, hairy projects which you always push away and say, yeah, we'll address these later, we actually address them. So I think for us, some of the big unification projects, etc., we could actually focus on those. So pretty excited that we could attack those for a change.
Okay, there's one that just came in, which I am not sure if I necessarily agree with, but I have limited information, which is, why do you think Indian entrepreneurs are lagging behind American counterparts in terms of innovation, R&D, or something transformational like a Tesla or Google?
Yeah, I think it's a tad unfair, but I know where the question's coming from, and it's not totally wrong. You know, guys, the reality is that you do get fashioned and conditioned with the ecosystem around you and the ecosystem and the market around you. Most of the time, people build solutions for the world that you live in. It's easier said than done to build a solution. Today, me sitting in India, if we're building a corporate travel tool for the US, it's less likely to succeed unless I've spent a ton of time there and my core team members also know that. And that's in travel, what we know well. So you're more likely to get a cutting edge corporate travel tool, and there are a few of them around there which are trying to change the way of corporate travel, or you know, fundamentally kind of change that, than you are to get it from India. It's just, that's the reality. So you will find very interesting EV, like, you know, someone, you mentioned Tesla. So I think EVs are hot in India, but you know, the problem they're trying to solve in India today, like Ather Technologies or Ethers, they're trying to solve two-wheeler problems for EV. And why not? We have, I think, 7x the number of two-wheelers than we have cars in India. But then I met someone else who's trying to solve a replaceable battery, fast charge battery problem in India. And they're saying, you know, we need to retrofit our existing vehicles. We can't junk them. This is not the US or the Western developed countries where you can junk your vehicle and buy a brand new one. Affordability is a big deal. So how do I replace the combustion engine which is there in a two-wheeler today with an EV, but yet maintain the chassis, so that I bring down my investment from a couple of lakhs to maybe 30,000 rupees? So we're trying to solve those kind of problems, which is fine, I think. So, you know, that's why, you know, you will find that kind of stuff happen here, and solving Indian problems. And I think that's very important to do before we jump to solving world problems. I think there are enough problems to solve in India.
Well said, Deep. Well said. Yes. I know we have probably time for maybe one or two last questions from my side before we get into the award ceremony itself.
Please. Yeah.
So Deep, I know you're a big fan of you know, user experience, and you know, you also mentioned now that you know, you like, you know, WhatsApp for its pedantic you know, experience. And I know MakeMyTrip, the downtime that you have now is being used to focus on, you're saying that your builders are busy. You know, they're building the products, the projects, focused on user experience, all of that. Keen to understand from you, and this is a bit of a plug for HeadSpin in here. You know, how do you measure and monitor online user experience? Or are you aware of, you know, companies that do this in a very effective manner?
Yeah, no, it's a great question, and you know, I think it's very relevant to the topic. So we do a bunch of things, and I'll try to compress it all. I actually also, you know, I spoke to my CTO to make sure that I haven't missed out something. The way I look at it is fairly simplistic, which is, I think you've got to push the boundaries of testing and quality upstream as much as possible. I don't believe you can delegate or relegate this down to QA. So QA is important, although there's a point of view of, I know some companies which have no QA and they're saying developers will do their own QA, which is fine. I think we need to do it for different reasons. Also, we need to have checks. But I believe the tougher the benchmark for quality acceptance right at the top, which means at your specs level, at your BRD level, what you're getting from product, what you're getting from wireframes, what you're getting from design, right up there has got to be of the highest quality. Because if you start relaxing there, it's something which, as it cascades down, gets only weaker and weaker. It can't get harder because you didn't start with this very inspirational, aspirational thought of what you want to build. So it's like every new feature has got to be a new business idea. It's almost got to be your entrepreneurial gig. And so we spend a lot of time there. I actually get very involved in design. For me, it's something which I believe I can add some value to. Most of my colleagues probably think I'm a pain in the neck, but for me, that's good. I spend a lot of time now with product, and we try to get it right, or at least try to be very detail oriented right up front. And then it flows down from there, and then everyone's accountable. The accountability, and it gets into the KRAs. This can't be left for QA alone at the end. So I think you've got to be completely fanatical about the highest level of acceptance on design, the acceptance on product, on features, but right ab initio that's the way we work with it. So that's my view on it as a founder. And then I was pleasantly surprised to get notes from my CTO, which actually he and I, I'm going to send him an email after this because I was reading them only during the day. But he enunciated it so beautifully. And by the way, he's ex-Infosys, so you might even cross paths at some point in time. And he put it together and he says, no, it might seem painful when you guys are pushing this down really hard, you and Rajesh, but it's actually very helpful because the end product that we get out of there, is much closer to what was wanted. So, it's much closer to what you as a customer wanted. So we're delivering that, but it's also helped us kind of hopefully alleviate what, the quality of the product. So that's how we look at it.
Brilliant. Thanks for that. And yeah, with that, I think we should jump into the awards ceremony here. Yeah. So Deep, give you some context.
Let's do it.
Yeah, yeah. Just to give you some context, a bunch of folks, over 100 people, 120 people from 10 countries participated in this hackathon. We've had a team from HeadSpin that evaluated the different entries and have finalized the 3 top winners. I have just literally a few minutes ago, Deep, sent you a WhatsApp message with the 3 winners.
Okay. Okay.
So we would like for you to, start with announcing the 3rd prize first,
Sure.
the winners. Before you do that though, and while you pull up the message, Shuchi, any thoughts from you?
Yeah, no, I think this has been great. It just, this is the other thing I've been telling everyone. Imagine if lockdown and this nasty pandemic happened 5 years ago. The kind of work we'd get done, the productivity would be so low. And even this is work, right? And we're doing all kinds, like we did 3 investor conferences, which would have meant a lot of travel, a lot of time on the road. Only upside of that is you get to meet some friends sometimes in some cities, but by and large, it's a lot of time spent. And now we're doing it just so efficiently. So all kinds of work is happening. I know some of the engineers and product folks are complaining about whiteboarding. And that's a business opportunity for someone to build that in before Zoom or go to webinar. Someone needs to build that in a smart way that you can actually even whiteboard pretty effectively remotely. So this is great. And thank you for having me. And I'm excited to call out the winners. And I'm excited to see HeadSpin go places. The fact that Manish, you're there, and Shuchi, you seem like someone who obviously knows what she's doing, so it must be a really interesting company. So looking forward to it, and maybe we'll find avenues to work together. Should I go into the announcement?
Please, yes.
Sure.
Okay, so the 3rd prize goes to Team Info Stretch, and I'd like to call out the 4 members: Mehul Kagathara, Nishit Shah, Amit Borania, and Shivam Goel. So congratulations to all four of you. Would love to hear more. Maybe later Manish will send me a little bit detail on what InfoStretch did.
Absolutely, yes. The plan is for us to send you, short write-ups of what these teams did, and also, if possible, help you and your CTO and others understand sort of what they've done, especially considering it's around the MakeMyTrip app, and hopefully you'll be able to, leverage that for your own app.
Absolutely, that's my payback and ROI on the session. Besides, no, I'm looking forward to that, seriously. Okay, the second prize goes to a two-member team, and a two-member team comprising Lavanya Mohan and Priyank Shah, and the team name is Hawkeye. And so congratulations, guys. Lovely to see. Is this the first girl there? Yes, First Lady Lavanya, well done. Priyank, I don't know. I guess it's a guy, but you never know. So this is wonderful, and looking forward to this too. And the third one is a
first
prize. The grand prize is a single member team, and it's B Krishnanand, who's got user emulation artist, and that's the first prize. So huge congratulations to you. This is really fantastic. All three teams. I know normally there's very, very little to choose between. It's very tough. The only thing we're missing out here is the excitement, the exultation, and that's the part which you're missing on a prize distribution. So when you send me this, please send me snapshots of the team people. I'd love to see the bright faces as well, and we will definitely connect on this. So congratulations once again to the first prize, Krishnanand's user emulation artist, the second prize team Hawkeye, and the third prize team InfoStretch. Awesome, guys. Can't wait to hear more about these projects.
Awesome.
Yeah.
Thank you.
And thank you for all the participants who who over a weekend did phenomenal work. I know our judges didn't have an easy job picking it up, and you'll get to meet with Jonathan Lips. And clearly many of you all are looking forward to the interaction with Jonathan Lips. Deep, thank you so much for your time, your insights. Azhar, I leave it back to you now to wrap it up.
Thank you so much, Manish.
Thanks, guys. Thank you.
Bye.
It was great having you. And just to quickly add one more thing, so apart from the hackathon winners, so the Test Tribe community was also running an online social contest with a specific hashtag that was hashtag HeadSpin Hackathon. Right? So there were 3 parts to it, and so the pre-contest and during the hackathon winners are already announced. So at this point in time, I'd like to announce the winner for post-hackathon. So we have Rahul R from Kiwi QA, who wins the post-event category of hashtag HeadSpin Hackathon. And also to add on to this, he wins a free pass for the TribalConf virtual testing conference, which is happening later this month between 27 to 28 June. So congratulations to you as well, Rahul, and it was great being a part with of this specific hackathon as well. Yes.
Yeah, and Azhar and Mahesh from the Test Tribe, thank you so much for organizing this. Clearly we couldn't have conceived doing this without you guys. So thank you for everything.
And I just want to mention, there's a lot of behind the scenes work that has gone into it. So I am truly grateful that we were able to partner with the Test Tribe, and the team is incredible. So thank you again for all the time and effort you put into it. Really appreciate it. And Deep, before we leave, I guess one last thing. What is the one thing that you're looking forward to post-COVID once we're all out and about?
Oh man, I need a holiday. I really need a holiday. And like I keep telling my family, because we got both the kids back. They're both in college, one in the US and one in Europe. We got them both back. So I keep telling them, but the caveat is, and everyone agrees, not just the 4 of us. We need some more people. We've seen enough of the 4 of us.
Yeah.
So, yeah, we're looking like an extended group holiday with friends and family. So can't wait to do that without a mask. And don't we all need a holiday?
Little things
There's,
we start to appreciate.
there's going to be revenge travel, guys. Watch,
Yeah.
just watch. People are going to be hitting their bucket list like never before.
Absolutely. I agree, completely agree. There we go.
Hi Deep, this is Mahesh from the Test Drive. Sorry
Hi,
to
Mahesh.
hijack the session, but I just wanted to thank you for obviously being here. But more than that, I have literally taken notes of whatever you said. It's been such inspirational session, And the best I like being a tester myself is the vision you have towards quality and testing, being an entrepreneur, being at such position, That is something which will set a very high benchmark, and this event would be definitely a milestone event in my career as well. Thank you for that.
Thank you very much, Mahesh. Appreciate it, and hopefully we'll be connected because we need all the help. In fact, we do take help from third parties all the time. So please, would love to get connected. I'll leave that with Manish. He'll make the connects in due course of time.
Would
Sounds
be
good.
pleasure. Thank you. Thanks again.
All right,
Alrighty.
guys. Have a
All
good
right.
day.
For taking
Thanks,
the
everyone.
time, joining us.
See ya.
Yeah.
Thanks.
Thank you.